In this episode of OG55, we are discussing Hey Bricky. We are doing a reaction. This is the 2.5 hour cut of his latest Monstropolis video. Just kidding, it's not 2.5 hours. No, but we are going to watch this video from the wonderful Hey Bricky. We're going to react to it, talk about it up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We are talking all about Monstropolis in Hollywood studios. There's also some Muppet news connected to the story. We're going to break that down, talk about it, react to this video from Mr. Hey Bricky. Before we do, George the Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Let's dive right in. Okay, so this is courtesy of Mr. Scott Gustin. Before we dive into Hey Bricky's video, we're going to kind of lead with the news a little bit here. Mama Melrose Ristorante Italiano will serve its last guests on May 10th, and Muppet Vision 3D and Pizza Rizzo will have their last day of operations on June 7th as Disney starts work on the Monsters, Inc. theme land at Disney's Hollywood Studios. It says here, June 8th, construction walls will go up behind the Coca-Cola stand, blocking off all of Muppet's courtyard on June 8th to make way for Muppet's Rockin' Roller Coaster. So this is interesting. I mean, we have a closure date now. And I mean, you know, we still have a few months. It's not like it's like right around the corner. He would like maybe 4 months, I guess, until, I mean, we're basically in February at this point. So maybe February, March, April. Yeah, you got like 4 months to get to kind of check out the attraction. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Are you surprised by how soon this is or not so much?
Normally this is usually the typical, but I am surprised Disney for this particular attraction for the Muppets decided to kind of rip the Band-Aid off, but I guess maybe that's best. The more that they let it linger and dwell, you know, the fans get in an uproar and everything. So they probably want to get things, you know, up and rolling. And the longer we wait for these things to close, the longer it's going to take for monsters to come online. And that's what a lot of people bitch and complain about too, is, well, okay, well, we got the news. Well, how long is it going to take for us to get it? Well, Disney unfortunately has to close things down in order for things to come online, you know, new. And I'm excited for it. I mean, it is bittersweet. I am definitely going to miss Muppet Vision 3D. I am very curious to see how Disney is going to respond to preserving the film and some of its qualities along with it. But I'm curious to see the direction they go with Monsters for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. We'll see. You know, a lot of fans, you know, all they wanted was, hey, Disney, come on, Universal is building Epic Universe. We need a response. We need some action. We need something built. We need you to actually turbocharge. And then the minute they start to turbocharge and the minute they start to build stuff, well, I don't want that. Well, I mean, not there. I don't want to put that, like, you got to understand, everybody. I get it, fandom. You don't have to love every decision, but like when you want Disney to invest in their parks, sometimes they might build something or get rid of something you don't like. And that's part of the game. You know, that's part of these ever evolving places. It's just going to happen, you know? So that's part of it. And again, like I said, I'm not telling everybody out there to shill or be a pixie duster. I'm just saying that if you want investments, sometimes those investments come with a little bit of a price tag, not just with the monetary, but also with like where it goes or what it replaces. You know what I'm saying? So in this case, we are getting rid of Muppets Land. But here, I mean, to be fair too, I mean, this is going to be an upgrade really in terms of attractions. I mean, Muppets only had a 3D attraction and now they're getting an actual roller coaster, something we've never seen before. Kind of an upgrade. I know we have the nostalgia for the film show, but I mean, this is an upgrade in terms of attractions go, in my opinion. So we'll see how it shakes out. But
really quick, and not to mention too, the Monsters Inc. mini-land or area and attraction have been on the roster at WDI for a long time now. You know, so I mean, this was some time forthcoming that it's been kind of kicking around the can for so long that it's like, is it going to go in, you know, Hollywood Studios? Is it going to be over at Disneyland? Like, there were talks that Monsters Inc. was, from the first film that came out in 2001, that there was talks about them doing a roller coaster based off of the door chase sequence.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They were tossing that idea around for DCA for a very, very long time about bringing the door chase coaster to DC. I remember that rumor back in like, oh my gosh, probably like the early 2000s when the park like just opened. There were rumors about that thing coming to DCA, and Rock and Roller Coaster was another rumor back in the day. You know, so yeah, it's definitely a thing, absolutely. But without further ado, we have Mr. Hey Bricky. Disney's Monsters Inc. land might have a problem. So we're going to go ahead and play his video and discuss it. Let me go ahead and put the subtitles on, and make sure you subscribe to Hey Bricky, become a member on his channel to get your brick key. Your very clever branding there, Mr. Bricky. But go ahead and subscribe, smash that like button. Here we go.
This sign is modest in comparison to what's coming, but this fountain is decadent in comparison to what's coming. Friends, they were diving into one of Disney's most exciting and potentially perplexing projects, newly announced Monsters Inc. land at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And while this project has created a bit of a buzz, it hasn't all been positive. And to add to that community conversation, I want to propose a question. Is this project the result of meticulous planning, or was it a rush reveal to make waves at D23? Food for thought. If this project is a little bit on the rush side, what does it mean for Disney's battle against Epic Universe? Because this isn't just about a new land. It's about a much bigger picture. Disney is redefining part of Hollywood Studios, but the concept artwork doesn't align with what they initially teased back in August. So I'm asking, why the shift in plans? Today, I'll break down the clues hidden in the design and how these changes impact the storytelling and what it reveals about Disney's current strategy. And I will debate if they are recycling ideas from over a decade ago. Is this the innovation Disney needs to stay ahead in this very competitive industry? So with my designer's eye, I will take you building by building through Muppets Land to show not just how this transformation will create a new look, but an entirely new story altogether. Together, we'll uncover the narrative being built with the architecture, what the new concept art suggests about the land's future, and why these inconsistencies might hint at a larger issue. Is Disney playing catch up instead of setting the pace? So let's step into the shoes of Imagineering. Were those earlier pieces of concept art mood boards to tease a vibe, or does this disjointed reveal suggest a project that's being pieced together as we speak? With Universal's Epic Universe about to open, can Disney afford to stumble when their competition is sprinting ahead? Bricky here, let's jump in and find out what's going on with the transformation of Muppets Land to Monsters Inc. All right, let's start our design breakdown at the grand entryway, where we see Gothic wrought iron creating more of a fence, more of an outer perimeter. I feel like it encloses.
I will say though, real quick before I move on, with the Epic Universe thing, and look, we've been positive for the most part about Epic Universe, but we'll also be honest with a lot of what we see here and all that with Epic Universe as well. So we've done quite a few videos on that topic, but like the thing with Epic Universe, I think there was a lot of overhype initially with this park, and a lot of that, and I said it before, I said it years ago, George, there's video after video of me saying the fans are overhyping this thing. They are 100% overhyping this thing. The expectations are way too high. And we're kind of seeing the fruit of that overhype, of all that rhetoric kind of coming crashing down a little bit right now. Again,
it's coming closer to opening.
Exactly. And the reality now is setting in. Now the expectations and the reality have to match, right? Well, they're never going to match. I mean, to be fair to Universal, they're never going to match, because the fans treated this park like the death nail for the Walt Disney Company, the park to end all parks. This thing is going to be absolutely game changing. That was all the rhetoric. Okay. And now the reality is, okay, you have an okay kid coaster with Donkey Kong, which we talked about. The expectations for that were wild. I mean, the expectations for Donkey Kong were so dang high that was the thing that people were basing their entire desire for the park on. People were wanting to go to Epic for Donkey Kong. And then you ride the then you check out the video for the POV. It's like, okay, it's like a Slinky Dog, basically. You know what I'm saying? And
it just makes everyone just want to go bananas. Like
bananas, exactly. And again, we'll be fair. Like when we actually ride the attraction, it might be much better. But based on the videos, at least, I mean, it doesn't look like the game-changing attraction that everyone hyped it up to be. There's a lot of little things like that. Even the new hotel that just opened, the Stella Nova and stuff, people seem to like it. We liked it. I thought it looked really good. But people are saying it looks good, but it's not up to what they were expecting. And again, fans were expecting a lot from anything connected to this project, whether that's fair to Universal or not. Personally, I don't think it's fair. I think you have a value hotel, value resort with Stella Nova, and I think you're getting a lot for that value, in my opinion. But when you have year after year after year of this high expectation, the rhetoric out there in the community for years that everything this project entails is going to change the game forever, I'm sorry, a lot of stuff is falling short of those fan expectations. So to kind of bring it full circle, in regards to Disney, I don't think Disney is in a terrible position right now. And I'm saying that because I do believe the reality that we are given with Epic Universe, while good, and even in some cases, in some elements, great, I don't think it's going to be anything close to what the fans were thinking it's going to be, just because those initial expectations were unrealistic. So I don't think, like, based on what we're seeing here with Monsters, this is like not enough, in my opinion. And we'll get into the whole video, but just for me personally, I feel this element for Hollywood is more than enough. And it's also, in terms of relevancy, a huge upgrade. I love the Muppets. I love them more than this franchise, but the normies don't. The normies have grown up with Monsters. Monsters has been more culturally relevant the last 20 or so years, 20, 25 years than Muppets have. Yeah, you know, and it's already proven its lastability. I mean, Monsters Inc. Premiered what, in 2001? It's been 24
2001.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like this franchise is like, you know, like something that just came out like a couple of years ago. This has been a proven franchise for now over 2 decades, almost 3 decades. So yeah, I think this is a plus in terms of relevancy, cultural relevancy. And I think from what we're seeing here, I think it's enough to at least, like, obviously not in and of it by itself, but when you add this and you add Cars Land in a few years and you add Villains Land in a few years, I think it's a good bag of goodies to compete with Epic Universe. But what say you before we dive into the video more?
I agree with you. I feel, kind of going back to Epic Universe, I'm excited to see it. You know, I'm curious to see how everything's going to go with the park operations, how the attractions, the aesthetics of the land. I'm very much, you know, invested in this. Abby and I are going opening day, but I'm not going to say that, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And this is going to be, as you said, like, this is going to be kind of Disney, falling to their knees with it. It's just another Universal park. I'm sorry, folks, that's what it is. I mean, majority of the attractions are all outdoors, you know, so, and you're going to do that in the state of Florida where there's constant rain and storms. Like,
and that's something that Disney... Right, and that's something that Disney gets a lot of crap for. Why don't the Imagineers understand that the state they're building in? We hear it all the time. Oh, they don't build shade structures in Florida. Oh, it's because there are a bunch of California Imagineers. Well, that's fair. That's a fair critique. But where is that criticism when it comes to Universal and their Epic Universe where everything is outside? You know, yeah. And to be fair, I think our buddy Slimer brought to our attention. I haven't watched it yet, but I guess our friend Noble Way did a video on that topic recently, which I really want to check out. But that's a fair critique, and that's a big critique when your whole park is outside pretty much.
What is it, like only 3 indoor attractions?
Something like that. Yeah. It's wild, man. It's absolutely wild. So I don't want to get out too much off on a tangent, but I don't think the Epic Universe thing is shaping up to be as much competition as we initially thought. And again,
that's why Disney never really, they responded to it, you know, by people asking questions during like the shareholder meetings or like the Q&A for during the quarterly earnings and everything. Bob Iger addressed it, but he knew what was going to come out of Epic Universe years before we all knew. And
Right.
that's why there was no real shake up to say, oh, we're in a hurry to get something done. I'd rather something be done correctly and it take time than just rush something just to respond to your competition. And then also speaking to like with Monsters Inc. and Villains and Cars, yeah, I feel like they got a good roster, and I feel that Disney World is gaining more, they're expanding more, and I feel like they'll have their own. I mean, they already have their own identity to Disneyland, but I feel like they'll have their own identity as far as having more things to do in each park.
Yeah, no, I agree. And these franchises they're choosing are very lucrative, very, very popular franchises. Cars is a merch king. Okay, that Cars moves, no pun intended, moves a lot of merch. Villains, $1 billion industry. The Villains is like the princesses, basically. I mean, Hot Topic survives on the Villains franchise. Monsters, from what I understand, is a hot property too when it comes to merchandise. So these are big IPs, for Disney, for the normies especially. So we'll see, and let's see what Bricky says about it. But yeah, I just want to kind of start off with that because the Epic Universe thing is a thing and Disney should pay attention to it, but I don't think it's shaping up to be the thing, the big thing that a lot of fans thought it was going to be in terms of like its impact,
The land more, you will also notice a couple of statues on top of the two pillars on the outer edges of the gate. I feel like the statues are instantly setting up the storytelling of you're going into a monsters-based land. Also, I think the gate makes it more of a divisional, whereas currently Grand Avenue kind of flows together. I think they're definitely trying to set up that this is where a new story and a new chapter of DHS begins. When Disney first teased Monsters Inc. land at D23, they shared concept artwork that had a lot of people like myself speculating. Now, some of this artwork suggested that the land would replace the animation courtyard, and then other images hinted that it might take over Muppet's land. Now we're looking at a new piece of concept art, and it doesn't align with either of those early visions. Something major has changed. With Gonzo's royal flush, we see this wall behind us get transformed into a storytelling.
Yes, there have been changes. And we've talked about this in our concept art video. This is why the D23 thing, and as much as I love D23, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We had a great time at D23, you know what I'm saying? I love that they do it. But this is the dangers of having a D23. Universal doesn't have a Comcast Con where they are basically obligated and expected to drop news every 2 years. Disney's expected every 2 years at D23 to get up on that stage and announce new things and show us the big flashy concept art on the big screen behind them at the Honda Center. They are expected to do that. When you do that, though, a lot of times these projects are in the early development stages where they're evolving. They announce it and then the project evolves. Well, the problem with that, from the fanboy perspective, like people like us, George, right? It's like we kind of like see the concept art and we kind of take that like, well, I mean, that's what it's going to look like, for right or wrong, Right. And that's the issue, is that a lot of times it doesn't pan out that way because this thing is moving its way through that design process, and it's not going to be the same. There are decisions along the way that change how things look.
Exactly.
And Universal doesn't have to deal with that because they're not expected to get up on stage anywhere at any convention and announce that stuff early. Disney is. Now, that's a bigger conversation we discussed in our concept art video. But I mean, if Disney wants to go the route that Universal is going, they'd have to get rid of D23 or change it completely because people want those announcements, So yeah. I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. The fans want the announcements, but at the same time, when you announce it and it's early in that process, it's bound to change, and then fans get mad if it changes in a way they don't like it. So
and Disney already kind of put themselves in that position by creating D23 and making it to what it is today. So right. Even if they try to change it or alter it, fans are going to get upset. But then if they keep going down this rabbit hole where they're showcasing it and people are thinking, oh, we're getting exactly how the concept is verbatim, it's like, well, Disney can't win either way.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's an issue for sure.
Set piece.
Because Universal will build a project and they don't even announce it officially until they're halfway through.
Oh yeah, they're like halfway done. They got the walls up and everything, and people are wondering, what is that? Well, it's like, Universal will tell us when they're ready.
Yeah, pretty much.
You can see that there's going to be teeth added all along the upper ridge, industrial steel corners put on each side of the building just to make it feel like it's a little bit more of a gritty, like factory town. But what's also very interesting is the faux windows that are being put in here. This creates way more of a neighborhood vibe, and this is something that we will pay attention to in this art breakdown, where they're going hard on adding in lots of new faux facades to create a much more dense, a deeper story, and to make you feel like you've truly walked into a whole different world. That attention to detail is not lost on me. So there's some very positive recommendations from me coming from this video. I'm just debating the overall plan. Rizzo's, the sign does stay, although different artwork, but most importantly, the big deck, the awning, it's all staying. Although not always open, this deck creates such a great vista into this land. And with some of the new details we're going to break down, I think this view is only going to get sweeter.
You know what's interesting? Hold on one second.
You
know what's interesting, bro? Give me a second, dude. The toy shop reminds me of the Emporium at Disneyland on Main Street. The building. Okay. I don't know why. I look at that, I go, wow, that looks like the Emporium. I mean, that's a compliment. I mean, obviously, you know, but I don't know. Looks kind of cool.
Into this land. And with some of the new details we're going to break down, I think this view is only going to get sweeter. It also does appear that a second water tower is being added to the building, but then another one is going away. I wonder if that's a mistake in the illustration or just something they need to finesse a little bit differently. So let's start with the possibility that the initial artwork was never meant to be definitive. Think about it. Disney has a history of using mood boards to generate buzz and to set a tone without locking in any specific plans. Was that the case here? Bright, playful, and full of Monsters, Inc. charm, but now with this new artwork, we see a very specific direction emerging. One that definitely is taking over Muppet's land. And I want to say this new concept artwork is by far my favorite. So maybe the plan is finally materializing, making it to where those early images were marketing tools without committing to too many details.
Right.
So the number one thing that you may notice when you look at this new vision of this land, is there's a lot more park space, a lot more green space. It feels way more open. And that's because stage one is getting demoed and taken away. And I do enjoy how this will create a very park-like setting.
Is that stage one right there?
I believe so. Yeah, I think it was the Muppet merch store.
Okay, because that building is absolutely hideous. So yeah, good riddance on that.
a lot more room. Major reason for this building being removed. Not only the green space.
There it is. It's right behind them. Is that the company store? That building we just saw?
Stage
is that the same
one.
building?
I don't know. No, that looks like a different one.
That's different than the other one. Okay. So this is what the company stage one company store.
Okay, yeah, now I see where it is. Yeah, okay, so that has to be demolished down because behind him, where you see like that barricade wall, that's where the walkway is going to go to get to the e-ticket attraction.
Gotcha. Okay.
Amazing. But this is going to be a giant walkway sending you straight to the factory where the new roller coaster will live. This ride will have a very high demand for the foreseeable future. Opening all this up will not only let crowds flow through, but allow people to catch a Monsters, Inc. vibe in the park-like setting that's going to be built over here. There is one major thing, though, that's getting lost from this that I'm a little bummed about. Could this entire project have been rushed to give 23 a much-needed boost? It wouldn't be the first time Disney announced something prematurely to make a splash at a major event. And let's not forget that the major e-ticket roller coaster that will soon be on the pathway directly behind me.
I got you.
This has been the plan that
I think that is the same building. It just looks different because I've never paid attention to the side of it before.
Yeah.
I always looked at it from the front, but I mean, I get it. That's where a lot of like the Muppet like merch used to be and everything. But yeah, the aesthetics and everything, it screams like Disney MGM Studios in the 90s.
Oh, it screams that. It screams giant boxy warehouse that like Eisner loved doing those kind of things. We have that in DCA too. And yeah, if they get rid of that, that would be a blessing.
Disney has been kicking around for quite some time, going back even a decade. At one point, rumored to go in the Hollywood backlot at Disney California Adventure. And now suddenly it's back on the table. Does that sound like a well-orchestrated plan to you, or a last-minute effort to fill in a presentation and just go, What can we make as fast as possible without investing a ton of time into research and development? What do we have that we can announce now? And this kind of brings up my concern
quick,
here.
bro.
Is this the kind of
I do agree to that in an extent, but also too, I have spoke to Imagineers like 15 years ago when they were talking about that they were thinking of putting Monsters Inc. They had all concept art ready to actually replace Rock and Roller Coaster. So they always, even though that there were, talks of putting Monsters Inc. in DCA and replacing the backlot, they were still in talks of putting it in the studios as well.
Yeah. And ideas never really die at Disney. I mean, I remember being on like the Disney message boards back in like, the late 90s, like mid to late 90s, even long ass time ago. But like we were all talking back then about the possibility of like a villain's land or a villain's park and stuff like that. So I see what Bricky's saying, and it's possible. I mean, it's possible that like, they Josh, knew he had to deliver this expo and he had to kind of throw some stuff together real quick to make sure there was plenty of announcements. I mean, that's a possibility, but yeah, I mean, like you said, George, I mean, this coaster idea that with the doors has been kicked around for like 20 years. I mean, since the movie came out, so yeah. It's something that they definitely have been thinking about for a long time. So yeah, it's interesting.
Reactive planning that Disney needs to take on Universal's Epic Universe, where Universal, as we all know, is gearing up to open an entirely new park this year. And every detail seems meticulously planned out. But meanwhile, Disney seems to be repurposing old ideas, cobbling together a vision for...
See, I would respectfully disagree with Bricky on that, because Epic Universe, like we talked about at the top of the show, doesn't have enough indoor stuff to do.
Yeah.
I think that is poor oversight. I think that's not the greatest planning when you're in Florida and it rains randomly at 2:30 in the afternoon, like torrential downpours every day. You're closing like almost your entire park every time this thing rains. That's not great in my opinion, but I mean, we'll see. Again, I don't want to. I know people are very passionate about Epic Universe. The Universal fans are out there, and that's great. I love the passion, but
it's not really. But it's stating a fact though, because if you really think about it, the way that Universal's going about doing it right now, they don't have Epic Universe attached to any kind of multi-day package deal. The only way to get into Epic Universe, if you're an annual pass holder, okay, then you have to get an individualized ticket, or you have to book a package deal but with the other parks to be able to get a 1 day, and you're only allowed 1 day per package. So if that 1 day you go to Epic Universe and it's torrential downpour, you really think Universal's going to give you your money back because you wasted your money spending on just a 1 day at Epic Universe because you had to buy it as a full set package?
Right. Yeah. It's an issue. It's absolutely an issue.
One select area of Disney's Hollywood studios kind of makes it feel like it's a short-term play for a long-term problem, and very risky when the stakes are this high. Now, because I'm admittedly a theme park weirdo, this back little alley here is my favorite part in all of Hollywood studios. I love the Manhattan feel that it has. I love how removed it is. It's always kind of quiet, but I feel like this tight corridor creates a true story of being inside of a Muppets Manhattan type setting. Going to be sad to see this go away, but it is being replaced with a park, and I always love how Disney designs their parks and green spaces into a very, very busy theme park, making it feel more like a city and less like an amusement park. It's that theme park that's so important to your theme park. Now, if you're really paying attention, you'll see another one of these style of awnings will pop up over in the new green space. This is really cool to repeat this because it not only sets a design choice for this land, creating a style guide, tying the two pieces together will absolutely make it feel like there's a unique infrastructure for this world that we're exploring. That is one of the most subtle details in here that made me really excited to see them building from the story within, but just adding a little bit more to it. The previous concepts hinted at expansive areas, some even outside the bounds of Muppets Land, but this new artwork feels more constrained, focusing entirely on the Muppets Land footprint.
And one thing I do want to address too, a lot of fans have, I've seen it like on social media and stuff, a lot of fans have complained about the blessing of size and how Florida has all this room and Hollywood Studios has, you know, room to expand. Why do they need to touch Muppets and this, that, and the other? It's like, here's the problem when you don't touch problem areas. Here's the problem when you don't touch outdated areas. You get Disneyland's Tomorrowland, basically, where you have a park like Disneyland that looks fantastic everywhere else. And then you walk into Tomorrowland and it looks like total shit. Let's be honest, right? So is that good show? Like, oh, we're saving it though. We're not touching it. That's we're not touching it. We have room over here to do something else. That's fantastic. But now you have all this new stuff surrounding this outdated, terrible looking area. That's not really a solution either. You know, so I get it. Fans are going to miss Muppets, but it was dated. It looks dated. You know, I'm saying
they never touched that area. Like, I think honestly, aside from like minor spruce ups or, you know, paint and what have you, they never did no significant change over near that Muppets courtyard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
If the earlier concepts were to set a vibe, this one feels way more practical and planned out. Like they're finally working within tighter limitations. They're finally making something that is realistic. But does that reflect a plan, or are we seeing compromise? So it also does appear that engine company number 1 will remain, although there's a little something weird happening with this water tower being moved over here. So this corner is to be determined. And the Christmas shop is going to stay, although the building's staying. It looks like new signs. The water tower is being removed. It's going to have a way more residential feeling. And you notice in this particular corner of the park and wherever they're putting in the residential spaces, they're focusing on their core branding colors, purple and green kind of everywhere to reinforce that Monsters, Inc. brand. Kind of generic when you think about what the two main characters' colors are. It's not that deep of a color palette, but you will see that get used time and time again to just solidify that you're inside of that world, as well as all the little Gothic flourishes that you'll see on the buildings, kind of more spikes and teeth, things that we'll find in our real world architecture, but feels a little bit more special here because it plays into the idea of monsters, where these flourishes can look like teeth, horns, spikes, tentacles. Like, it just adds a whole other level of storytelling, and it's not that complex, but it is consistent. And I think that's what will make this land feel immersive. Now, as Disney fans, you can just be excited or not excited. That's up to you. But as somebody who studies this on the channel, this is where I have to ask some hard questions. Is this new direction an improvement? Or does it feel like a step back? Not a step back against Muppets Land, but just a step back at where the industry is going. Like, is this cutting edge something that has multi-decade life? Or is this something that'll be cool for a couple of summers and then everybody will be like, what else do you got? I'm sure many fans are very excited about a Monsters, Inc. land, but I just wonder, is it being designed for the longevity that a park needs? Because we know they don't make a lot of these revisions too often. Shout out to Tomorrowland back home at Disneyland. But as a creative that, you know, studies the heart, art, design of the Disney parks, my biggest...
I honestly, for me, I feel like the Monsters, Inc. land will have longevity in the long haul, whether people experience it a few times or not. I mean, even look at Cars Land at DCA. Yeah. I mean, the Cars franchise as movies, I mean, they're okay, but I mean, they're not really...
Well, and the franchise ended like the last Cars movie was a while now.
Yeah,
land is still really popular.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like Monsters, Inc. is a more relevant IP than probably Cars, aside from Cars being like a cash flow with merch. But I think as far as the nostalgia of the films themselves, I feel like Monsters, Inc. has that one up over Cars. So if Cars Land can actually have that longevity, I'm for sure Monsters, Inc. will.
Yeah, and Monsters has proven itself as a franchise already in terms of like lastability, just as the franchise itself. I mean, that movie came out in 2001. I mean, we're in 2025 at this point. and people still buy up the monsters hats. I see them all over the place. The MU, right? Everywhere. I see, especially females love those hats. I see them all over the place. So it's still a relevant franchise. Yeah, I think we're fine. I think it's going to be okay, but we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out.
Yes, worry here. Is this showing Disney's focus on quick wins and hurting their overall ability to think long term? That's my concern. Always long-term planning. Now, what's really interesting, the Mama Melrose facade, it stays. If we look at the concept artwork, this perfectly aligns with the back corner. So this facade is staying. But then Harry Housenson's is going to begin on the other side of this. And I think that's where this land's going to actually have to expand a little bit. Let's break this part down. I feel like everything from the awning over, this whole cube on the end, this will have to get torn down and become Harry's. If we line Mama Melrose up with the concept artwork, you can clearly see that's where that building sticks out. And then there is extra space over here on the corner to not take away from the wide walkway that they obviously want for the new roller coaster attraction. So for fully to believe the concept artwork, this space that I'm standing in, all the way up to the edge of the curb, this will be converted over into Harry's to make that cool looking new building with the giant chopsticks. So that's going away, but the Mama Melrose's facade appears to be staying. So the roller coaster should be pretty big. It will be directly down this path. And keep in mind, when we look at the concept artwork, the actual ride exists in the M-shaped hangar. So all that other space around there could be an indication of an expansive pre-show, maybe a little bit of shopping or some other experience. But the roller coaster itself should go into the factory. And just a little critique, Disney, why are you showing backstage? I'm going to airbrush some trees in here. It only took a couple of seconds. Like, we're not supposed to see what lies behind Rise of the Resistance. Like, come on, what is this? It was jarring to see backstage. Like, just put in the trees. We know it's there, but we don't want to see that it's there when we're looking at concept artwork. Because concept artwork is meant to be a tease for our imaginations. This breaks the wall of imagination and brings in the nastiness of reality.
Yeah,
Monsters, Inc.
I agree.
has the potential.
Really
to be a
quick though,
very,
I
very
actually
successful land.
am a little bit on the other side.
Really?
And the reason why is, again, kind of how we're like married, that fans like to marry themselves to the concept art. And I get it. Sometimes it could look like bad show by showing backstage, but maybe sometimes if Disney does show a little bit of the reality, then fans can know what to expect of how they see it in person.
That's fair.
Because then you would really not know what is really a backdrop of it being fantasy of concept art or what is actually going to physically be there.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But its rocky, uncertain start does raise a couple questions about how Disney is approaching park design in 2025. This is becoming an incredibly competitive landscape. And even though I think this is going to be awesome, I just wonder, is it enough? Or is it a little, too late for plans that have been...
Well, I think here's to answer his question. In my opinion, is it enough? Well, it depends. If this was the only thing they're doing in response to a whole park at Universal, no, it's not enough. Clearly, that's not enough. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at the overall picture, though, you have Monsters Inc. Land here. You have the new Muppet Rock and Roller Coaster. You got Villains Land. You got Cars Land. You have the new nighttime parade. When you have all this other stuff, when you zoom out and look at everything, and it's just part of the puzzle, I think it's enough. Yeah, I think it's fine in and of itself. To a one little land with one ride to compete with Epic Universe, no, of course not. That's not enough. But I think when you add in all the other stuff that's coming down the pipeline, I mean, Encanto as well over there in Animal Kingdom and Indiana Jones, this is more than enough. I think when it's connected to all the other stuff too, you know. But you have to connect all the other stuff because the other stuff is part of that equation. So.
Yes. And I would think the same thing even with Tropical Americas. If they were just doing Tropical Americas in response to Epic Universe, I'd say, okay, that's cool, but that's not enough. But tying it with Monsters Inc. and as you had mentioned, the nighttime parade and everything, yeah, when you have that nice little WDW bundle wrapped in a bow, you know, it I feel like it's enough, you know, for Disney to kind of compete in a sense, healthy competition. But also too, we have to remember it's not even just a e-ticket attraction that's going to be in this land, but it's also going to be a brand new show that's going to replace the Muppet 3D show, which Disney had said it's not going to be the laugh floor. It's going to be a brand new show. So I'm curious to see what kind of show that it is that's even going to be, because Disney didn't even release any info on that yet.
Yeah. No, I forgot about that. Exactly. So I think that's interesting. And I'm glad they're not bringing the laugh floor over. That would be the cheap, easy fix. And I don't want any cheap, easy fixes. I want a new show. As much as I've heard laugh floor is a great show and really, really funny, let's get something new in here.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. To move that over here in a brand new land of a show that is great, but has been there for, I don't even know over a decade.
Yeah, it's been forever.
Yeah, so it's a good show, but honestly, I would even keep it in Tomorrowland, because Lord knows Tomorrowland needs all the help it can get right now.
Why get rid of it? Why get rid of it? I mean, just because there's a new Monsters Inc. land at a whole different park, like why not just keep it? I mean, you have multiple picks. I mean, you have Midway Mania, and you also have Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters in Disneyland and DCA, and there's no issue with that. I don't see why there'd be an issue with having this in Hollywood and in Magic Kingdom having a laugh floor. I think it's absolutely fine.
For a decade. And it just so happens to be the most controversial part of this entire puzzle. It's going to be the part where it looks like they're putting in the most amount of work. When we look at the building that's behind me, the home to Muppet Vision 3D, they are putting a ton of new facade work into this one. By far, the massive transformation here is the biggest thing that we're seeing in this land, other than the building over here going away. This thoroughfare will be unrecognizable with the park.
And honestly, I'm seeing a lot of backlot elements in this area. You see it right behind them. It looks like when you're walking up to Mission Breakout at DCA. The big blank walls, very minimal theming, maybe a billboard or something. It's like, I'm glad they're going in here and they're like really changing this stuff. I want this part behind him. I want that to be unrecognizable, because it's really not that great, in my opinion. I mean, we got to take our nostalgia glasses off as fans sometimes, I think
we need the unrecognizable to be the unrecognizable, because we want something to not look like the unrecognizable, because you couldn't even tell what the hell that thing is behind him.
No, you can't.
Is it a store? Is it a restaurant?
And you've been to Disney World. You've been to Disney World a million times. You can't even tell me what that is. I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, that's you need to beautify this stuff, and I get it. A lot of fans, I see it all over social media, right? Like on Twitter and stuff, or X. People are so like emotional about this Muppet area, and I get it. But it has its flaws. This is not a perfect area by any means. There's a lot of that lazy kind of half-assed theming, this backlot behind the scenes theming scattered throughout this land. I'm seeing it constantly in this video behind them, where it's like the theming just will stop and then there'll be a giant warehouse, So yeah, I want them to revitalize this. I want them to change this and make it unrecognizable, because right now a lot of it is not that great, in my opinion.
A building missing, and what's happening to my right. When we look at the intricate marquee out front, you can see tentacles, spikes, a centralized eye. It's way bigger than the Muppets' current marquee that we see in front of the theater. The clock tower also gets an eye added to the clock. You see lots of Gothic accents all around roof lines and the steelwork on the edges to just make it feel a little more industrial. A new billboard is added to the corner, but this is where I think it gets the most exciting. And I can't show you this in the real world, but you'll be able to see it when we come in here. The rounded roof of the theater will be hidden by 7 new faux building facades, making this feel a lot more like a little neighborhood right across from Grand Avenue. Not only will this...
Yes, and it also takes away this backlot soundstage thing that I've been complaining about in this video, where it's going to feel like an actual place now.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel like some soundstage in Hollywood. I mean, they're moving away from that whole back behind the scenes kind of stuff, which is good, to be honest. So is Universal. They're moving away from that. They don't do that anymore. Look at what they're doing in Universal Hollywood. It's like Wizarding World, Super Nintendo. They're not doing any of the backlot, soundstagey looking buildings anymore. It's all these like heavily immersive areas. And I'm glad Disney is one more element in Hollywood studios that had a lot of that cheap backlot stuff is going away. That's a plus in my opinion.
It used to be the thing in the 80s and the 90s, and it's just not what people are looking for when they go to a theme park nowadays.
Yeah,
they want immersiveness. They want to be transported into the story instead of looking behind the curtain, so to speak.
Exactly.
Create more neighborhood feelings, but it will create a lot more storytelling. Your imagination will tell you, wow, there's monsters that live all around this little city that I'm lucky enough to explore for the afternoon. Now, I'll be curious, there's a red awning over here on the corner. Will that be maybe a sweet shop or something? Are they going to build something into this space, or are they just going to retrofit the exterior and use the interior the way that it is now? But probably one of the biggest bum outs is Miss Piggy's fountain going away. This new modern art eyeball piece, I just don't really know if it's for me. It feels a little bit lazy, but who knows? Maybe that's just placeholder artwork.
Yeah, I agree with him on that. The Miss Piggy statue is awesome. If they go with the artwork, not great, Bob.
Yeah. Me personally, what I would do, and I get it because the way that they have Miss Piggy, the way they have Miss Piggy designed, because this is how she was in the show. But I wish that they could do something kind of like the pit tribute and nostalgia to move it over by Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
So they can kind of have like a fountain over there as well.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
The land, both inside and outside, will have several vehicles parked around for photo ops, a place to sit. I'm assuming this will create a vibe very similar to the vehicles we see stationed all around Toontown back home at Disney.
See, when he's walking, give me 1 second. He's walking through. This is basically DCA 1.0 right here behind him. Like that, the building on his left could easily be the Hyperion. Okay, the god awful Hyperion queue. You got blank beige wall on your right. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's not like they're bulldozing, New Orleans Square or anything with this, project. I mean, this isn't exactly like, top-notch Disney, in my opinion.
I mean, this will create a vibe very similar to the vehicles we see stationed all around Toontown back home at Disneyland. Oh, I love Disneyland. Now, the previous concept artwork does not align with this vision. Although they may have established the proper mood, there's no way to align any of that to what we're inside of today. I do think a lot of the facade work that they're doing to the Muppets Theater will create a lot more storytelling and a lot less industrial backstage area feeling.
Good.
You're walking to the e-ticket attraction, you'll see the park, you'll see a city. I think you will see yourself inside of a true Monsters Land. Although not quite as crazy as Zootopia that we saw internationally, but that was a long shot to get something of that great detail. Now that I'm thinking about it, if everything over here is a park, you have to do something to this massive,
hideous,
ugly theater building, right? Like the arms kind of twisted to turn this into a neighborhood vibe, so that when you walk through here, with the culmination of the park and the city, you actually feel like you're going someplace versus just walking through, I don't know, a backlot studio, which I mean, I guess is kind of cool to people that don't live in LA, that have never been to a studio. But to me, this stretch right here has always lacked the imagination that the other stretch on the other side has.
Yeah.
'Cause that stretch is phenomenal. How about you do both of us a favor by becoming a friend of Hey Bricky and subscribing to the channel today. And if you want to kick our relationship up a notch, consider becoming a Magic Brick Key holder. I'm so excited you're here. And honestly, I'm super excited that I'm here. A week of Walt Disney World. First trip, 2025. Let's hope to keep going.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Bricky is a friend of the channel. We love Bricky. Brilliant content as always. I'll be linking, obviously, his channel, everything down below. Make sure you... Oh, hold on. Give me 1 second, everybody. I got to close that out. Okay. Yeah, I will be linking all of that information down below. So make sure you subscribe to Hey Bricky if you are not already. Fantastic content creator and a good friend of ours here on the channel. Absolutely. But George, any final thoughts or opinions before we skedaddle?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as you were saying, kudos to Bricky on another great video. Again, not only a great content creator, but as you had mentioned, a good friend of ours, supporter of our channel, as we are a supporter of his. And him creating this content allows us to be able to create content. So we we're kind of like in this little Disney division circle of content creation, and I'm very excited to see Monsters Inc. For myself. I know a lot of people went nuts over the announcement at D23. We were there, we saw it for ourselves, and I know people then backtracked that decision of where the possibility of Monsters was going, replacing Muppets. Disney confirmed that, and now we got an actual closing date for Muppets. So it's going to be a lot, but I mean, I'm an optimistic. I like to look at the glass half full instead of half empty, and I always like to kind of take my personal thoughts, opinions, and philosophy off of Walt Disney himself, where it's like we strive for excellence and we keep moving forward, and that's what the company is doing.
You have to move forward. Yeah, exactly. You have to move forward. And there's a lot of history behind Muppet Vision. I get it. And I respect that. I've said many times in multiple videos, they have to do something with that film. You know what I'm saying? You don't just let that, fade away into the past. You have to bring that in some way somewhere else, whether it be like a Jim Henson museum experience, or whether it be even on Disney Plus, which the Disney Plus thing would be the bare minimum. I hope it would be more than that, but you have to let that thing live. That was Jim Henson's last work, and I respect that. But as a theme park, you cannot let these areas stagnate forever because fans are so emotionally attached to that thing, I mean, eventually it has to go eventually,
and us as fans, we get so comfortable knowing that it's there and it's not going to be touched. Every single time that I've been into Muppet Vision 3D, as great of work that was done by Jim Henson, the theater wasn't filled when we went back in 2023. It wasn't a full house.
No, it wasn't a full house.
Now it is, because it's closing and people are saying, oh, well, look how crowded Muppets are getting. Well, yeah, it's because people know subconsciously it's going to go. So they want to get their last feel of seeing it.
Yeah, it's all because it's going away. It's always like that. It's always, when anything's going away, fans suddenly want to go and experience that thing. But it was never. And again, I know I'm going to get people in the comments, but it was for me, OG. I know everyone has their thing, but for the most part, the Muppet stuff wasn't like a huge. You're not rope dropping Muppet Vision, okay? Let's be honest, fandom, okay? Let's be honest, okay? So, yeah. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but I think this is a good compromise. I mean, Muppets are getting an actual attraction with Rock and Roller Coaster, and they're not going away completely.
And Muppet Vision 3D never was even open during the after-hour events at Hollywood Studios. But now with Monsters, Inc., with another whole ride and attraction, that could be something that could be utilized for after-hour events.
Yeah, exactly. Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. Comment down below with all your thoughts. Also, make sure you subscribe to Hey Bricky. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. We would love to hear from you down in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and until the next time, see you later, Alex.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.